Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chapter 8, focusing on thought groups. We've looked at pausing with thought groups. We've looked at chunking with thought groups. Now we're going to put them both together, and I want you, for each of these numbers 1 through 4, pick which of the sentences you think employs correct use of thought group divisions. Remember, with chunks, if you go to the previous activity that we just looked at, remember with these single word and multi-word combinations, we expect to have a pause at the very beginning of a sentence, or even more toward the middle with transitions, with if-then clauses, short sentences. We would not expect any divisions at all, that we would expect those to be full thought groups, singular thought groups, because it's so short of a sentence. The tricky ones are the phrases. And I think the best way to determine whether we have a division is there a noun that's introduced? Do we have a new person, a new place, or a new thing being discussed? And I think more often than not, when we do, we have a new thought group. So before listening, you can listen to CD2 track 46 to check your answers. But before you do that, go through each of these, compare, and determine which of the two has the correct use of thought groups. For example, number 1 would be B. Last month, pause, I went to San Francisco, pause, and walked across the Golden Gate Bridge. Usually we'll have one thing they didn't mention here in terms of the chunks, whenever we have a contraction, whenever we have a conjunction, and, but, because, however, or, even though, in between two fragments, sentence fragments, when we combine those with a conjunction, more often than not, we'll have a pause there too. I wish they would have added that in the chunking section. So let's do number 2 together, just to give you a feel. But again, you can listen to CD2 track 46 to check your answers, to listen for those pauses. Number 2, as far as I know, his favorite snack is popcorn. As far as I know, his favorite snack is popcorn. So certainly there's a pause here after as far as I know. That's a multi-word combination, right, to begin a sentence. So we don't get the pause here until the very end of that expression, that multi-word combination. So number 2, I believe the correct answer would be A. Now, keep in mind, the one thing that they do want you to recognize is that there may be more than one way to divide speech into thought groups. Like, for example, even though clearly letter A is the correct answer for number 2, you could create a pause here or take away a pause upon preference, right? As far as I know, his favorite snack is popcorn. As far as I know, his favorite snack is popcorn. We can include or we can take away that pause, and it really just depends on the context, right? If we're speaking casually, between friends, our speech tends to be more quick. We're more comfortable in this situation. If someone needs us to repeat something, it's okay. We tend to speak very quickly, right? Because we're excited to communicate something. So in casual speech, our thought groups tend to be longer, right? Not as many pauses, again, because it's a more casual context. We feel more open to speak more quickly. Now, in more formal speech, in an academic setting or on the news, perhaps when you listen to the radio, you would expect to hear more pauses just because people want to be more cautious and they want to make sure that they're understood, I think is the general rule there. So do keep in mind that we do have some variations in these thought groups, and they are greatly influenced and dictated by the context. More formal situations, you tend to have more thought groups, more pauses. More casual, more friendly speech tends to yield longer thought groups.